Well, now it's time for our monthly feature, Make Business Law Your Business, brought to you in collaboration with the OHADA. We'll look at the contract and what you need to know to avoid conflicts in your business dealings.
Building a dam, a school, a road, a clinic, ordering equipment for various administrations. These are all likely to be the subject of calls for tender. A successful bid means contracts need to be drawn up and signed. It's the dream of every entrepreneur.
It's always a pleasure to sign a contract because it's money in the bank, a company's raison d'être. But the counterpart is the pressure to provide results and to succeed.
But how many businesses know how to see a contract through from beginning to end, without encountering major obstacles on the way, sticking to deadlines, and with the service quality stipulated in the terms and conditions? For administrations, the quality the contractors provide often proves to be a stumbling block.
In fact, contractors and suppliers have problems with funding. Very often, we don't have qualified skilled workers, and a lot of foreign nationals from the sub-region come to work in Mali. Because in some fields, we just can't find skilled workers. Then there's the problem of guarantees. A lot of the businesses here are more or less artisanal, and their structure is not always in line with expected norms.
A contract drawn up with a government, an organization, or a supplier must not only provide guarantees concerning the resolution of the conflict, it must also ward off potential arguments. It must clearly state the objectives to be obtained, the various parties' obligations, the cost of the service in question, not to mention payment and delivery deadlines. The contract also stipulates the competent bodies in the event of conflict. In other words, everything is done to ensure litigation takes place within a certain legal framework. And as such, a business contract is a guarantee, a form of protection. But certain conditions need to be met for a contract to be valid.
It is essential that the signatory is actually competent when signing the contract. There needs to be a mutual agreement. I should not be signing a contract under duress. If that is the case, the contract is null and void.
Before signing, it is, of course, essential to carefully study the contract's terms and conditions to make sure it is fair and feasible, and to follow expert advice.
On s'assure que la partie avec qui
we make sure the party we are drawing up a contract with, the buyer, has sufficient liquidity to honor the contract. It's a question of trust. Once the contracts have been drawn up, they are officially registered. This is vital. Otherwise, what is there to stop me signing one contract today and producing a totally different one tomorrow?
It is one thing to sign a contract, yet another to successfully see it through. Failure to respect delivery deadlines can trigger a whole raft of administrative sanctions. But the fault does not always lie with the enterprise that signed the contract.
Si le contrat, par exemple, doit être exécuté dans un délai de 30 jours et que
if the contract has to be honored within a 30-day period, and in agreeing to the deadline you're counting on correspondents responding within 48 hours, well, if there are administrative holdups, you'll find yourself being penalized.
Events such as acts of God or force majeure can adversely affect the outcome of a contract. The details of a call for tender may, for example, specify the use of a certain type of material, but when it comes to fulfilling the contract, the material may no longer be available. Similarly, a strike may delay delivery of the material required, or adverse weather conditions may hold up work. A contract can never be 100% watertight, but whatever the situation, there are pre-established frameworks for dialogue and rights of appeal.
When you get the feeling that a company is struggling, you need to help that company solve its problems. You need to think ahead. You need to submit letters of intent to make sure people understand that there are problems ahead. So we take an objective approach to trying to help find a solution so the contract can be honored.
As a rule, the enterprise receives an advance to start work. The Treasury must be expertly managed to make sure cash flow issues do not adversely affect the successful completion of the contract.
Once
you've been awarded a contract, the first payment you receive is not actually your money. It is not to settle previous problems and pay for services due.
Faire de votre mieux pour que ce que vous avez eu comme gain, ce qu'on appelle les acomptes, puisse être.
You need to be in the field to see the work is being done and make sure you do the best job with what you have.
Moins non, juste ou plus de ce que vous avez reçu.
A contract that is honored is, literally and figuratively, money in the bank for the enterprise and a gateway to other opportunities. Likewise, a company that defaults on its contract can end up losing money, being sued, and ultimately blacklisted. It's a word to the wise.